Kind of feel like that meme of Robin Williams from Jumanji. What year is it? Because this does not feel like your 2024-25 Trailblazers as they go into Charlotte. And for the first time since 2022, rattle off a 4-game winning streak. Welcome into the fifth quarter. Chris Burkhardt here with you. If you want to join the conversation with us today, 503-248-0620 is the telephone number. YouTube.com. Type in Rip City Radio, and you can join the chat there. And, of course, Chris J. Burkhardt and B_Slot are the names on social media. But the Blazers go into Charlotte, grab the 102-97 victory. This is another game where the defense showed up, and they got the job done. Offense was struggling. I mean, the Blazers only scored 102 points, so it wasn't pretty. But I thought the defense kind of came up big when they needed them to come up big. They hit shots when they needed to hit shots. Blazers went to the free throw line 39 times in this one, which just feels unheard of for this Blazers team. But the Shawns is going to be in their dreams tonight, telling them, you got to hit your free throws, because the Blazers just went 27 of 39 from beyond the arc, 69% as a team. No bueno. But shout out to Denny Avdia, who went 11 of 14 by himself. Anthony Simons, 7 of 9, helped booing the rest of the pack. It was a good game, though. The Blazers, they came out. Largest lead of the night was 13 for Charlotte, 9 for Portland. 6 lead changes. The game was tied 9 times. So they battled a little bit, the Charlotte Hornets, without LaMelo Ball, without Brandon Miller. Threw him for a loop a little bit, and the Blazers were able to weather that storm. But I do think you look at Charlotte, and we talked about it in the pregame show. I mean, they're like Orlando. They are a bottom 5 team in the NBA in scoring. So you can take advantage of that, play good defense, put them on lock, and the Blazers did tonight, holding them to just 97 points. That's 2 games in a row. The Blazers have held their opponent below 100, and that is special, because I don't know if you guys know this. You should if you're listening to the show, because I say it more than once. No team in the NBA currently averages less than 100 points per game. So for the Blazers to hold them under 100, pretty nice. If you want to join in on the conversation, like I said, youtube.com is a great way to do it, or we can head there right now where Timmy Hammock started off the chat. Blazers win 4 in a row. Look at that. He's pretty good, because you look at that. His first 2 comments had nothing to do with your Beavers there. Brenden, he's learning. He's progressing. He's growing. But then he calls me out for no Metallica shirt again. Day ruined. Oh, my gosh. I'll get on it, my friend. I'll get on it. I'm trying to bring the profesh look today by wearing my OSA gear, right? Rosengrat blames Mike Parker. There's the reference. And bricks and joysticks. Can you feel that? The tank talk dwindling to a whisper. Yeah, the tank just hit its brakes and everyone went flying forward. You're just waiting to put it back in gear again. Let me tell you, this is one of those moments, though, bricks and joysticks. You just take it and you enjoy it. Because as we talked about yesterday, the L's are going to start coming. This homestand that the Blazers have to go on is pretty nasty. In fact, the Blazers do not face another team who is currently outside of the playoff looking in until February 22nd, when they rematch with this Charlotte Hornet team. Like, that's a stretch of games, man. That is a stretch of games against teams that are number 1, number 4, number 5 in their respective conferences. It's going to be a nasty run here. But if you play defense like you've played over the last few games, you know what? You're going to give yourself a chance, or at least you're going to play good ball. That's what we can hope for, right? We can hope that you just play good ball and get the job done. Now, on to the box score. On the Charlotte side of things, Josh Green had 14 points in 35 minutes played. Mark Williams had 15 points, 9 rebounds, and 3 block shots. 17 points from Nick Smith Jr., 16 points off the bench from Josh Okogie, which Travis pointed out that this was the 3rd time that Okogie has played the Blazers, because he played him twice already when he was a member of the Phoenix Suns, which got me thinking. I need to go down that rabbit hole. What is the most a single player has played the Trailblazers in the regular season? So let's not count, the 5, 6, 7 game series of the postseason. But has there ever been a player who was on his team, played 4 games against the Blazers, and then got traded to Another Western Conference team who hadn't played a single game against the Blazers yet and played, 7, 8 regular season games against Portland in 1 year. I want to look this up. Had me intrigued. But Josh Okogie looked good off of the bench for the Blazers. Tumani Kamara, 11 points, 6 boards, 2 steals. He was 5 of 10 from the floor. Jeremy Grant, 22 points. So it's good to see him actually get the scoring going because he's been struggling just a little bit. So it's nice to see him actually hit those shots. He was 7 of 18 from the floor. Just 4 points for Donovan Clingan in his return, but that's okay because he did everything else you needed him to do in this one. 13 rebounds, 4 assists, and 4 blocked shots. And when you don't have DA and you don't have Robert Williams, you knew you were going to rely on Donovan Clingan a little bit. So it was nice to see him go out there and clean the glass like he's supposed to. That's his job. That's what he's good at. He's good at getting boards, and he's good at blocking shots. The points, they are far down the list of importance for things he does. So I'm not upset that he had just 4. Anthony Simons, 36 minutes. He was 8 of 16 from the floor. He had 27 points, 5 rebounds, 2 assists, 18 points, 5 rebounds, 4 assists, 4 steals as well for Denny Avdia. Shaden Sharp, another night where, where's the offense all of a sudden gone? He had just 13 points in this one on 5 of 13 shooting. Scoot Henderson, 22 minutes, 1 of 3 shooting, 2 points, 4 assists, 1 single rebound. He did have a steal and 2 turnovers. Delano Banton, 15 minutes. Jabari Walker had 13 minutes as well. They combined for 5 points. And the Scoot Henderson thing, it's he didn't foul out this time. He only had 2 fouls, but he gets 22 minutes as the Blazers go with Ant and co. And that one will continue to be a little bit of a head scratcher, man. I want to see him. I want to see him in the lineup. We all want to see him in the lineup, right? And I do think it's no coincidence that his best games have been in the starting lineup where he's been given the vote of confidence, given the ball in his hand, and been out, able to go out there and just hoop and do Scoot Henderson things. So again, after a string of really good games, he's had 2 games that were not very good. Again, if you want to join the conversation, youtube.com is one way to do it. You can also go and grab your telephone, old-fashioned way, 503-248-0620, where we head out now to Sean in Sandy. Sean, welcome into the 5th quarter.
Hey, brother. Blazers are looking good. Really glad to see him doing well. But I'm not going to get too happy or too excited over beating some of the worst teams in the NBA. I'm looking at this team. I don't even know any of these guys. I'm looking at a guy named Micic. If that guy was on the street, if I met him on the street, I wouldn't believe he was an NBA player if he was wearing his NBA uniform. That guy looks like somebody who's like sitting at a tavern ordering like greasy food somewhere. There's no way that guy. I think if he makes it to the NBA, anybody should think they should be able to do it.
Well, I get what you're saying, but also it'd be kind of weird to run into an NBA basketball player wearing their uniform out on the street.
No, that's like a reference. I mean, I wouldn't believe it.
I know.
Even if he was wearing his.
I know. I'm just joking with you.
It's like, some people I won't even believe they're in the Army, even if they're wearing their Army uniform.
Yeah, I feel you.
So, but I'll tell you what, the Blazers go in and if they upset like teams like Boston in Boston, they start winning those. The only team I've seen them beat a good game was when they went to Milwaukee and beat the Bucks. That was great to see that.
Well, they got that one. That home game against Denver was pretty good too. Got to take that one.
Yeah. That was a great one on the calendar, right? But I love to see the upsets like that. I'd love to see them go in and get Boston. And this team, they're a gritty team. And they're starting to put some stuff together and getting some confidence with it. You can see they're growing leaps and bounds this year, don't you think?
I think they are a little bit, for sure. I like what the young guys are doing. Tumani Kamara has been great, man. That guy's, I feel like he improves every single game I watch him, and I'm like, holy smokes, I love what I'm seeing. But I also think at the same time, and of course, these are all within a vacuum of the last few games. I mean, like in the last few games, like Shea's kind of taken a step backwards, and you would hope that he continues to, fix that and move forward, right? And we've seen the moments of Scoot showing that he's progressing as well too. It's just a matter of making that a consistent move forward, not the 3 steps forward, 1 step back thing, which we're seeing just a little bit of.
Sure, and I think a lot of it with Shea is because these other guys weren't even on the court with him. So it was kind of like Shea and Anthony and then everyone else, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, a lot of these guys weren't even playing together. Scoot wasn't on the court. Avdia. I mean, these guys weren't really all playing together as much time as they are now. So I mean, it was pretty much Shea, Anthony, and then just guys coming in and out all the time,
Yeah.
right? Anthony was like in the beginning of the season, it was pretty much Anthony's show, right?
Yeah. No, you're right. You're right.
So, what do you think? I'm curious. We're counting down on the trade deadline, and I think that should be the talk of what's going on right now in the whole NBA and the league. Is what do you think is going to happen? What do you think the Blazers are going to do?
Wow, that's a loaded question, Sean, because I think there's a lot of moving parts right now outside of Portland's hands. I think especially when you look at what Jimmy Butler wants in trying to get out of Miami, you've started to see the reports of 3, 4, 5 team trades, and could that happen? I think there is, and I saw this one reported from someone too. I can't remember who it was, but that there are GMs who are just kind of waiting for the Jimmy Butler domino to fall so they know what teams they can go work with. And I do believe that. I think Jimmy Butler has to be the first domino to fall because then people can start going where they're going with the CBA and all this and know who they can deal with. I do think that what we thought was once an easy move for this Blazers roster, it might be just a little bit harder to move some of these guys at the deadline, and it's sounding like it could be more of an offseason type deal. I think DeAndre Ayton's going to get very little interest at the deadline. I think Anthony Simons will probably get very little interest at the deadline. I think if there is a Blazer that will be moved at the deadline, it's Jeremy Grant because I think he's the easiest to plug and play in just about any offense. And if you're a playoff team looking for just a little extra scoring punch, he fits that. I also think Ant, having a good game last night in Orlando was great because Orlando got to see him. And you look at that Orlando lineup, you're like, okay, when Franz Wagner gets back to full health, he's a great scorer. When Paulo Banchero gets it going, he's a great scorer in the paint. You look at the roster, the one thing they're lacking is that one guard on the wing who can just be a pure wing scorer and open up the offense a little bit. I think Ant fits wonderfully in that lineup, and I think that's a match made in heaven if you're trying to deal him out of town. So we'll see what happens there, but I don't know. I thought it was going to be a good trade deadline. It feels like it might be a quiet one, and I'm actually really, really intrigued to see how the entire league approaches the deadline.
Well, I think I agree with you on all that, and I think Jeremy Grant and Anthony would be the first to go. And what I like about what Joe Cronin's doing is he's not taking bad deals. Joe Cronin, I've been watching the deals he's been doing the last couple of years, and I'm really pretty proud of what he's done. From especially like the history of the Blazers the last several years and the deals they've done, Joe Cronin, he's finding some gems out there, and he's getting pretty decent deals.
Well, I'll tell you this, Sean. People can talk about DeAndre Ayton and what he does and how much he's paid for that. Let's not forget that you took on that salary. Sometimes you get a salary dump in a move, but there was a GM who was like, yeah, I want Tamani Kamara, right? And Phoenix didn't want to part with him. Phoenix did not want to part with him, and he got him.
You know what? You got to pay a little extra for the bigs. I mean, I think, he's making a lot of money right now, but I mean, really, he's a pretty solid player. And he took his team to the NBA Finals. He was actually really good on that Phoenix team. And he's pretty good here. He has moments. I think he's going kind of three-quarter speed right now. And I know how I would play when we're not playing for a championship. We're just playing out a season. I'm not going to give you 100%. I'm not going to hurt myself. That's how I work. And usually I can only give I can give 60, 70%, and everyone thinks I'm giving 110. Because I just, that's just the way I am. I'm pretty good at what I do. And I think DeAndre's the same way, brother. He has not played real well this year, but I think it's a lack of focus. I don't think he's out there. I think he's just going through the motions this year. And I think most guys would, most veterans. You can have these young up-and-coming guys giving 100%, but the older guys and the guys that know what's going on, we're like, hey, man, we're just here working. We're doing our job today.
Well, Sean, I appreciate the call. The only negative on that is I don't like lack of focus being thrown on DA because I think even if you're playing 70%, I need you to be focused at all times. That's what I want. But, hey, I appreciate the call. And And you're pretty spot on. He does have a big contract, Sean, and that like people really like to focus on the amount of money people make. But DA has not been terrible. He's just been up and down, man. And the thing is that frustrating is like when he's up, he's really, really good. Like the game in Miami was great, and then he has just lackluster games where you're like, bro, what are you doing? What are you doing? He's still not like he's the worst starting center in the league. Far from it, right? And so there's still value in him, and we'll see where they go with it. And of course, you might need to keep him and Rob around for a minute until Klingon is ready to go and truly be your starting center. But we'll see where things happen, man. Because I think it's either going to be a flurry of moves or it's going to be a really, really quiet deadline. And I know the CBA is just really holding people back with that whole second apron thing, and GMs not really having the fluidity that they thought they were going to have. If you want to join the conversation, youtube.com. One way to do it, where Doran asks, is it true that Denny is moving to Phoenix? Oh, here we go again. Don't trust all the rumors, okay? You can understand where certain things are going and see how things will flesh out. But do you really think Joe Cronin is trading a guy in Denny Avdia that is proving that he can be a very, very focal point of this team moving forward, is going to trade him to Phoenix to get Yusuf Nurkic back in return? Yeah, why? Oh, so that you can just take Donovan Klingon and plug him on the bench to never play again because you have a center rotation of Ayton, Nurkic, and Robert Williams? That makes a ton of sense, man. Let's book it. Yeah, let's. You've heard of a 3-guard lineup? God, give me the 3-center lineup. Put Yusuf Nurkic at small forward, DeAndre Ayton at power forward, Robert Williams at center. Oh, yeah, sign me up all day long. Denny Avdia is not going to Phoenix. You can trust all the rumors you want, but it's not going to happen. Anyway, tonight, the Blazers, they went into Charlotte. They grabbed the 102-97 victory. They walked in with 3. They came out with 4, and this is what it reminded me of, Brenden.
Go for it, red. Go for it, black. Go for it.
Get off my back.
Get it 4. Got 3 in a row. Go for 1 more. Go for it.
Too late, Joe.
Connect 4.
Go for the fun of Connect 4. 4 in a row wins.
Go for the bottom and go for the top. Watch for the block.
Forget it. You're stopped.
Go for the glory. Go for the star. Go for it.
I win.
Connect 4. Go for it.
Yeah.
Connect 4.
Connect 4. Even red and black, man. It was meant to be.
Up.
It was meant to be. All right, we're going to take a quick little break here on the 5th quarter. When we come back, got shot of the night, drive of the night, still got Coach's Corner and a game ball to hand out, and then we'll get out of here. Go get some rest, man. 2 games back to back. This is exhausting. Imagine what it'd be like having to play basketball at a high level. Chris Burkhardt here with you. This is the 5th quarter, presented by Coors Light on your home of the Blazers, Rip City Radio 620.
It's time for the fifth quarter shot of the night on your home of the Portland Trailblazers, 620 Rip City Radio.
50-47. Grant 3 for the tie. Buries it. We are even at 50. First tie of the night.
Row. Oh boy. Last time the Blazers won 4 in a row was the first 4 games of the 2022-2023 season. That included a win to start the season at Sacramento, 115 to 108. A win at home against Phoenix, 113 to 111. A win on the road at Los Angeles, 106-104. And the final win of that 4-game stretch was a win at home against Denver, 135 to 110. That's been a minute since the Blazers were able to say they won 4 in a row. You can look back at that roster. That game that they beat Denver 135 to 110. Jeremy Grant had 21 points. Yusuf Nurkic had a double-double, 13 points, 12 rebounds, 6 assists. 31 points from Damian Lillard. Josh Hart had 6 points, 11 boards, 29 points from Anthony Simons. Drew Eubanks, Greg Brown, the third off the bench, each had 4. Little baby Jabari Walker had 2 points in 4 minutes. Nasir Little, Shaden Sharp each put in 11, and Keon Johnson had 3. That feels like a lifetime ago when you look down that roster. Absolutely, it does. Oh, man. If you want to join the conversation, 503-248-0620 is the telephone number. You can also go to youtube.com, type in Rip City Radio and get in on the chat. And you can be like my friend Tyler, who sends creepy screenshots to prove that he's watching the show because Brenden forgot to put the end slate up. So, people are just watching me text on my phone and, pick my nose and stuff. Thanks, Brenden.
How about all that?
You're a real one. Okay, maybe I exaggerated a little bit, but I was checking my phone, checking the Twitters and then the socials, seeing what was up, seeing how excited people were that the Blazers went and got their 4th win in a row. Don't worry about old Tankathon.
Nah, don't worry about that, man. That's too much fun.
Yeah, we had that conversation. That bad boy is going to balance itself out, Brenden, okay? It's going to
trade
balance
deadline
itself
might
out.
help that too.
Oh, yes, absolutely, right? But, man, the next homestand, I mean, like I said, the Oklahoma, Milwaukee, Indiana, the Suns twice. You don't play a team outside of the playoffs again until February 22nd.
Ooh, that is a brutal stretch.
That is a run of games.
Yeah, no kidding.
That is a run of games. Timmy Hammock was challenging everyone to an elimination chamber match. It says Timmy, Brenden, me, Rat from the chat, and Victor in an elimination chamber. And as I said, you don't want these hands, Timmy. You don't want these hands. But, yeah, Bricks and Joysticks put $10 on Burkhardt. Bro, you can wager more than that. It's worth it, I promise. But let me tell you what. I understand the whole tanking system and what people want and how you look at the draft and you know that, like, this team's not sniffing the playoffs this year. But you know what? This 4-game streak, it's good. And it's like Sean and Sandy said, you can't take a ton of it away from, you beat Charlotte, who's not great. You beat Orlando, who's one of the worst offensive teams in your defense locked down. But you could still sit there and go, you know what? We had some fun. We had some fun. We played well, won these games that I think you should have won, and now you feel good about it. And you come back home, you might take a couple L's, but this little 4-game stretch I think can go a long way in building the confidence for the team and these players as a whole. I'll tell you one thing, though, that absolutely doesn't build confidence is sitting here scratching your head going, why did Scoot Henderson play 1:30 in the 4th? This is where we start to struggle, Brenden, where we're being fed this. It's about development and about the future and about development. And then your prize number 3 overall pick, who just had a really good stretch of games, is now relegated to, let other people rest time. And then he gets in there. I mean, Delano Banton played twice as many minutes as Scoot did in the fourth. Like, that's just weird to me. I don't understand that. I don't understand Scoot not getting it. I get the game in Orlando, the foul trouble and all that, but man, like, this guy is a part of your future. He's really, really darn good. He's had a wonderful stretch of games. Let the man play. Everyone jokes about Miami. Free Bam. Well, it's about time to free Scoot. Free Scoot. We'll see what happens deadline time when maybe we get some trades in here and figure out what to do, because the floor needs to open up, man. The floor needs to open up. It's just absolutely apparent that Scoot is best suited in the starting lineup, where he has those athletes around him. He has shooters around him, and the ball's in his hands, not sagging in the corner. There is a lot of weight to the fact that he hit that game winner, that he said he'd rather be doing that than sitting in the corner, right? You gotta figure that one out. Timmy says, this team puts me in a glass case of emotion. One week they win 4 in a row. The next they drop 6 games in a row and lose 5 of them by 20. Yeah, a glass case of emotion. I feel that. Shout out Ron Burgundy. Also, I want to know how many people listened to my my recommendation and went and watched CinemaSins last night. I sent Brenden one.
This guy.
I know Brenden is a Titanic fan, which I find so weird, Brenden. Like, the random people that we connect with at work, because I didn't know that about you till you said it on radio one day. But it's like, okay, so I worked at NBC, and Peter Sokach, wonderful dude, super talented producer, also a Titanic nut. Like, not the movie, just like likes the movie, but like Titanic buff. Knew everything about the ship and just loved it, right? When I grew up, I was the same. I go to the library in school and I would check out every Titanic book that they had, both fiction and nonfiction. Knew everything about the ship. Murder on the Titanic. It was a great book, right? And then I married my wife, who, guess what? Titanic buff. Loves the Titanic, everything about it. Went to Vegas and been to the Titanic Museum, which is great for a Titanic buff.
Awesome.
When you turn the corner and see the big piece, oh my gosh, just pin drop, right? And then I come here and I work with you, and I found out you're a Titanic buff. It's just weird.
It was, oddly enough, one of those movies that I don't know why I gravitated towards it as a kid. Maybe it was the boat. I always like things, ships and seas and things of that nature. And it was, I've just always been fascinated by it.
Timmy's trying to rain on our parade. He says the Titanic was swapped with the Olympic before the maiden voyage for insurance fraud. Oh, okay.
Were you there in 1912?
Yeah, and it was
1912,
and it wasn't brought down by an iceberg. It was brought down by space lasers.
Yeah. Sure. Yeah. I'm like, if any of us were around in 1912, I'd love to hear their opinion. But considering that none of us were, I think we all just have to leave it to guesswork and history.
Yes, absolutely.
But yeah, that was awesome, Chris. I'm glad you sent that my way, because that was a very enjoyable about 15 minutes last night.
Here's one for you, Brenden. Have you ever had a desire to vacation in Belfast?
So I know what you're talking about, the museum, and it's like the near replica. If I ever got to Ireland, I would absolutely have to see it, but I'm not necessarily planning a trip to Belfast for.
Well, it's they got the hotel, the museum. It's right there at the docks where it was built, and then they also have the SS Nomadic, which is the last remaining ship that Thomas Andrews.
That's right.
Thomas Andrews designed. So you know what? See, Titanic buffs. Let's just get together. This is what I love about the fifth quarter. One day we're talking food, next day we're talking Titanic. Timmy's making us talk Elimination Chamber, WWE. Well, the Blazers ended the Elimination Chamber with the Bulls, the Heat, the Hornets, and the Magic. And guess what? They came out champions, baby. They came out champions. This is just a great little 4-game run, man. And I love the fact that the defense has been playing really well and kind of winning them these ball games. The offense is coming and going. It's hit and miss, but defensively, they're getting their block shots. They're getting their rebounds. It's good to see Klingon out there today, but they're winning it on the defensive side of the ball. And I think that's something that you can build on moving forward, especially when you got guys like Tumani and Denny and guys out there who like to get a little bit dirty on that end, man. They like to do the dirty work, and that's good to see. That's absolutely good to see. Now you just need to get that offense rolling on nights like tonight where Shea is just 13 points. Like that's inexcusable. He needs to get to the point where he's hitting buckets and he's having fun, right? Like he's hitting them and he's showing you why, people, oh, he's a Kobe, Maple Jordan or whatever. We've seen it in spurts. We need to see the whole thing, man. I want to see him take over. This was a question I saw a Blazer fan ask earlier. Like, for the Blazers to take a step, like, what Blazer really needs to make that next move? And it's Shea. They need Shea to play at an all-star level. Because without him, if he fizzles, then they're in trouble, Brenden. They are in trouble. Because say he fizzles, well, okay, now you're back to square one for who your go-to scorer is. Because it ain't Scoot. And Denny's really good, but he ain't your number one scorer on a team that's making playoff runs yet. You need Shea to hit.
Yeah, you need him. We've talked about it forever, Mike. He is the most likely to still play that Batman type role, right?
Yeah, that's what they need. All right, again, if you want to join the conversation, 503-248-0620 is the telephone number. I said it so many times. I was about to say, I'm like, is that the right number? It's all a blur. Like, you ever sit there and read a word and it just it looks weird after a while, and then you second guess if you're actually spelling it correctly?
As someone who writes, and you've written too, Chris, that happens all the time where I'm like, does that look correct? You're spell checking a word you think you should know over and over again. You're like, that looks weird.
Okay, I'm not alone.
I'll come up with one here soon. I need to think about it.
I had to spell check schedule today.
Yeah,
because I had written it down so many times is like that it just started to look wrong, and I'm like, I know how to spell this word.
I completely understand what you mean. I think it's a writer's brain, man.
Okay, that makes sense. At least I'm not alone. But let's head out now to Bryce in PDX. Bryce, welcome into the fifth quarter.
Hey, how's it going?
It's going good. How are you?
Oh, doing good. I missed more of the game than I had hoped, but I'll dispel the lack of enthusiasm from Blazers fans. Like, I love the 4-game run, and I'm not necessarily sold that we need to like drain the fun from the season to try to maybe get Cooper Flag, because I heard from one of my coworkers, and I'm actually super excited because I finally talked him out to going to one of his first basketball games he's seen live. Going to go see the G League with him.
Very nice.
Here in a few weeks. But he was saying like one of the last basketball games he saw was the 92 run against the Bulls and stuff like that. He was thinking about how we made our faux pas in the drafting. So I don't know, the hunt for Cooper Flag, it might not pan out the same way, because we passed on Michael Jordan allegedly back then. And
there was no allegedly, just factually.
That did happen.
Factually.
They made a movie about it even.
Right.
But Shaden Sharp, not his best offensive night, but I'm looking at this box score, trying to catch up, be engaged in the conversation, and I'm liking 9 rebounds. That's tied with second place on the Hornets and second place for us. Like, when Shaden Sharp's getting 3 rebounds less than Donovan Clingan, that's looking good for me. I saw some of those grabs whenever I finally got home tonight, catch the last 7 or so minutes of the fourth quarter, actually visually. I'm excited about it. You don't always have to put up the most buckets. Like, it's kind of like the last few call-ins I've had about Delano Banton. It's just like you have to provide that energy and be willing to put in the assists.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, you absolutely have to, and you're not wrong, man. The getting out there and getting the rebounds and doing that little work is absolutely phenomenal. I do think Shea's been pretty good on that end and getting better. That's why I've actually liked some of the games Scoot's been putting together. He had a bad one tonight, but he's had a lot of these games where he's out there getting 15 points, 6 rebounds, 7 assists, and those other little stats matter. It's not all about scoring. How many times we've seen Jeremy Grant go out there and get, hey, 26 points and a single board. Like those other things matter. And I do love to see the Shea working out there on the glass and trying to be a little more there on the defensive end, which is what coach wants them to do.
I like the idea of fair weather Scoot Henderson fans, since it feels like an entire year of people being like, we made a terrible drafting decision. Now that he's had like 5 or 6 like high scoring like really, really just kind of like falling into the role. I imagine Cronin and all the people like Chauncey like saw him as like stepping into the vacuum left by Damian Lillard at point guard. It's so funny to see people that were like fair weather Scoot Henderson fans being like, like listening to like Dodgers for the first time getting into baseball, like, oh, that's a good team, like I like their turn. I saw some of those memes where it's like the sad guy and the happy guy like riding the bus, and it's just like things like Scoot Henderson or like 3-game Blazer run on both sides of it. And I'm like, I don't know, just enjoy the game. Like,
yeah,
that's my thing is like, I think it's a heyday to get into the Blazers if you live in Portland. Like, you can watch every game for free on like a $10 Goodwill satellite antenna. And like, heck, I think I got a ticket to go see the Bucks or something for like, it couldn't have been more than like $28 with ticketing fee thoughtlessly, like maybe like last Sunday. And I thought that was one of the games where it's going to sell for like Lakers prices. Like, I think it's a good time to like see some basketball and, see the ups and downs of a rebuild team and still like, yeah, it's not Shaden Sharp's. It's not the game that would get you on that pint glass, but still some really good stuff. And then you have Jeremy Grant shooting 50% from the 3-point line. And then, I mean, if you want to like really look at analytics, like 25% from Advia and Kamara from the 3, Anthony Simons going 4 for 10. Like, that's still some like really nice offensive plays, that you have that along with like a great defensive structure and like bench players, like that's fun.
Yeah, no, it absolutely is, Bryce. And thanks for the call. And to your point, think about like stocks, Brenden. Best time to get in?
When they're low.
Early on the ground floor, baby. Right?
Or, during a crash. Those like, again, Chris.
Well, then this can be the crash.
I mean,
get in before they go back up.
If I could go back in time and I'm not even like 20 years, but just go back in time, realize, okay, no, you don't need to, hoard your money in toilet paper during COVID like we all did, but take advantage of the fact that everything fell back to like zero, and then you could have made a pretty penny, man.
Yeah,
made a pretty penny.
I'll tell you.
But
this.
yeah, stocks are great.
I'll tell you this, Bryce. I talked about this with Chad for a while, and I'm sure Brenden gets this a little bit with like Oregon State, right? Like this year for you, there was obviously the ups and downs, and you had a
lot more downs than ups.
Yeah,
yeah, I feel
you had the rough part of losing Smith, but one thing that Smith was getting to a point with Oregon State was that everything was kind of consistent with him, right? And it's like, not yet, like he was still building up, but you get where I'm going, because like with Portland, with CJ and Dame, you knew how every single game was going to go. You knew if it's crunch time and you need a last-second bucket, the ball's going to go in Damian Lillard's hand. He's going to go get his 25, 30 every night. CJ's going to be the second leading scorer. Nurk's going to go out there and get 10 points, 10 boards. There wasn't a lot of questions, right? And so going into the last few years, I've loved it from the reporter side, and I completely understand where fans can also get irritated because, paying your hard-earned money to go watch these games. But for me, I have found these last few seasons very, very enthralling for the unknown. Who's going to be the guy tonight? What kind of rotations are they going to run? Who's going to be the guy to step up? And that becomes a fun storyline too. So like even for you with like Oregon State, and yeah, it was a rough season, but you get to analyze the game in just a little bit of a different way because you're watching it so much different to see how Bray does things compared to how Smith does things. And
Sure. No,
right now, like, we're getting Chauncey fatigue, right? So if they move on from him in the offseason and they bring in a new coach, like, that first week of the season is going to be so darn fun, regardless of the wins and losses, because you just get to analyze how he's taking it and approaching things.
Totally. I couldn't agree with you more. And then, in hindsight, sure, like you said, Chauncey fatigue. Chris, you can remember, I can remember being, on the radio and talking about as clear as day when there was Terry fatigue. And don't get me wrong, Terry Stotts, the man. Love me some Terry Stotts.
Terry Stotts gets filed under you don't know what you got till it's gone.
Oh, yeah. People never appreciated Terry, man. It's just the consistency. Like, I was talking, like, Chris and I were catching up, recaling great moments of the early, Dame, CJ, years not too long ago. We're like, man, playoffs and fun. And I get it. They didn't go to the peak. But, like, every year, Chris, you could count on Terry and the Blazers going to the playoffs. And that was something that was as bankable as death and taxes there for a while. So, it's like you said, sometimes you don't know until it's gone.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, it gives you a chance to see how these things grow. I'll tell you that. No one ever said a rebuild was easy. No one ever did.
Not at all.
But Portland fan has been pampered for a long time. You get, 2 decades straight of going to the playoffs?
Still one of the more winning franchises all time.
You go into a rebuild really shortly because all of a sudden you get Brandon Roy and LaMarcus Aldridge and boom, 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 things look good. Right? The rebuilds are always tough. But when you can find the silver lining, like Bryce was saying, and the things to watch that make it fun, there's things in there to enjoy. Like, you can't watch a game like tonight, even if they lost, and not enjoy, watch a Donovan clean up on the glass and get some block shots and see the future. All I see, though, is when you got to, if Shea becomes a scorer and Scoot can do what he's done, the previous 5 games and not the last 2, and he's a good assist man, and Shea's a good scorer, and you got the defensive Tumani and the engine that is Denny, and Klingon becomes a star. You got some really nice young pieces here. And like I said, it makes it intriguing to see how they grow together. Tough part is just making sure you're watering them right and let them go. You could be like me. You get a flower in the house, and you next thing you know, it's a week later, you go, oh, I forgot to water it, and all the petals are on the floor. Like, you got to make sure you take care of it, Brenden. All right, we're going to take a quick break here on the 5th quarter. When we come back, it is time for the Coach's Corner. Hear what Coach Billups has to say following this win. We'll hand out a game ball, and then we'll get out of here because, like I said, we got to get some rest. 2 straight games. Oh, boy.
Been a grind. But a fun one, brother. Still
better than leaving the Reser Stadium press box at like 2 o'clock in the morning to drive up I-5.
You and I leaving Moda at 11:30, man.
I'd still rather leave that. I always hated sitting in the, like when you had to cover Beaver games, I'm like, an 8 o'clock tip? Oh, my God. Why?
And then an hour and a half drive home, baby. Let's go.
Why? This is torture.
I've made that more times than I care to admit, brother.
Oh, you've made it. Yeah, and you've made it more than me. That's for sure. All right, Chris Burkhardt here with Brenden Slaughter. This is the 5th quarter presented by Coors Light on your home of the Blazers, Rip City Radio 620.
For the latest on tonight's game, we head to the Coach's Corner with Chauncey Billups.
Yeah, I mean, it was just a tough game. You know, it's a very tough game to play, you know, when a team doesn't really play all the guys. You know, you're preparing all day for LaMelo and Bridges, and, you know, you're preparing for that. And there's always just a natural, this just happens in humans, it's a natural letdown when that happens. You know, you can let your guard down. So it's happened to us a couple times this year, and we've taken some really, really bad losses. You know, it happened with Memphis, it happened with Utah, they beat us like 40. So we needed to defend against that. I thought we did a pretty good job of it, but never really got control until, you know, the fourth quarter. But it's like that. I mean, we've played a lot of games in a short amount of time. Our guys are a little tired, you know. We have to play a lot of different combinations out there based on just trying to find something that will work, you know. And I was proud of our guys. We played our butts off, just continued to attack and put a lot of pressure on the rim.
What did you think of Donovan and his start?
His minutes were great. You know, I just wish we had more. You know, I thought he dominated his minutes in terms of on the glass, blocking shots. You know, he was a presence down there, but you just couldn't go too long with him, you know, trying to respect the minute restriction. And then we finally got our guys in our small ball lineup to really compete and talk defensively and rebound collectively, and we finally kind of settled in on the game.
To waste some time, I believe it was Denny who had that play where he just put the ball in. I don't recall seeing that. Is that something that you used to do back in your playing days?
Yeah, definitely, and it's something that we've been trying to teach for a long time. As you try to, you know, the clock is your enemy, and the moment when you're up, you know, the clock is the thing that could beat you. If you just run down, taking quick, fast shots, getting more opportunities. So it was just a heady play, you know, by Denny. We all need to be in that mindset most of the time, and I was proud to see him do it.
How do you feel about the trip now that it's over, going 3-0 on it?
Oh, man, it's amazing. It's an amazing trip for us. You know, we had a good win at home against Chicago, and, you know, we just have continued to get better and better, and whoever plays is ready to go. So this was an incredible trip for us, you know, I think on both sides of the ball. Obviously, you always look at the win or loss, but you have to get a little more into it. And I think defensively, our defense has been really lights out. And then offensively, I think we've done a really good job of just kind of sharing the ball. Whoever's open, passing it, trusting that they're going to make the right play or shoot it, you know. So really, really good trip for us. I'm really proud of these.
Dealing with the MCL and then the ankle and all that, and he didn't really show any rust, which was good. He just went out there and he balled. And again, he just had 4 block shots, 13 rebounds, no big deal. 4 assists, 4 points, but the points are not his forte, nor are they that important when he's on the floor. You want him to do all those other little things. So again, shout out to Ant for having 27 points. Shout out to Jeremy Grant for having a good game. Shout out to Denny for doing what Denny does. But I'm giving the game ball to Clingan. And you can't say anything about it. It's my show. Do what I want. Also, Brenden, my wife, chimed in and said, of course,
What's the missus got to say?
Of course, I struggle to spell schedule because I can't even say it properly.
Ooh.
Thanks, babe.
Yikes, catch some strain.
We all have
you
words
might need
that
to
we
go
struggle
home
with.
and, play a little dad.
Schedule. I was the kid who grew up in, library. Like, come on. Unique in New York.
I mean, I was always the, tomato, potato kid myself.
She also heard you saying that you've done the trip to Corvallis many a time, and she laughed, and she's like, oh, he can't whine. You had to do the leave an arena at 1 a.m., get to the airport to get on the airplane at 5 to get to the next NBA city.
Oh, she's entirely right. I have not traveled extensively, especially with a road NBA team. That's a different kind of animal.
Tell
No
you
doubt.
what, we had a back-to-back one time, Brenden. Had a back-to-back in New Orleans, and the second night of the back-to-back was Memphis. 5 o'clock tip in Memphis. Show up to the airport in New Orleans. Our flight's delayed a half hour. We were leaving at 10 o'clock in the morning. Okay, no big deal. We're waiting. Flight's delayed an hour now. Uh-oh, things are getting hairy. Next thing you know, flight was now delayed 2 hours. And this was all in the span of about a half hour. It went from a half-hour delay to a 2-hour delay. And I was sitting there with Jamie Hudson and Jason Quick, who wasn't working. He used to work with him at NBC, but he wasn't working with us at the time. He just happened to be on the same flight. And we just looked at each other and we're like, so if the plane leaves now at 1 o'clock, if it gets delayed we're not going to get there in time. When you factor
You're
in,
like, we're not going to get there.
yeah, we're not going to get there. So we all we need to get a rental car, don't we? And Jason's like, yeah, if you guys want to work on canceling your flights, I'll go get one real quick. So he went over to Hertz, got one. We drove from New Orleans to Memphis.
Well, what is that, 5-6 hours?
I think it was about a 6-hour plus
Oh, my
drive.
goodness gracious. Yeah, that's
Drove
a long
through
time in the car. You guys got to know each other real good.
Oh, yeah. Drove through the nastiest rainstorm I've ever been in.
Really?
I live in Oregon, and I
deep
was
south
looking out my
rainstorm.
window because I legit thought I was going to see a tornado.
Wow.
Right?
Okay.
Because you had to drive through the entire length of Mississippi.
Oh,
right?
Yeah, you definitely saw part of the country, Chris.
Oh, yeah. And we pull into Memphis, and the hotel that we stay in Memphis is literally right across the street from FedEx Forum.
Yeah.
We pull into the hotel, just get valet the car, walk across the street, walk into the arena, basically when game was tipping off.
Talk about
it was
timing. Wow.
Insanity. I also did a game in Philadelphia one time where the Sixers Blazers was the night game, and in the afternoon, the Philadelphia Flyers had played. But the hockey game went to sudden death overtime. And so when we got to the arena to do our pregame hit, which we usually do right on the court under the basket, the court wasn't even set up yet. There was half of a basketball court out. No power, no nothing. We had to do our live hit in the hallway where Coach does his pregame availability on the hard cam that they had set up there. And players who would be normally warming up couldn't warm up because there was no basketball court. It was pretty wild. All right, let's look at this schedule, Brenden, because did I say it right, babe? She's going to text me. You're a loser.
There it is.
Still can't say it. You still can't say it. And I'm like, yeah, well, you married a loser. So who's the real winner? We both are. I just have words that I can't say. I mean, really. I outkicked my coverage, as they say, Brenden. Outkicked my coverage. All right. Blazers will be back in action on Sunday, 3 p.m. tip. So I'll have game day for you at 1 o'clock. Am I done with you for a little bit, or are you going to be my producer that night?
No, you got a break from me for a little bit, but never fear. Next week, we're right back at it, brother.
Do I get a break from you, or do I have to deal with Shacker? It all depends on your
I got to go and work with our good buddy Chad Doing, so that's a different challenge all in itself. No, I love y'all.
All right, but that is Sunday, 1 o'clock game day as the Blazers take on the Oklahoma City Thunder. And another quick reminder that Tuesday's game against the Milwaukee Bucks will have a special setup. So Chad will have the Rip City Drive from 3 to 5. I will still have game day from 5 to 6, but we will be live from Dr. Jack's. So if you get out there early enough to get over to Dr. Jack's before you get to the game, come in, come say hi. If you're not too shy, I might even put a headset on you and have you talk a little ball with me. We'll have some fun. All right, once again, Blazers, they go to Miami. They win. They go to Orlando. They win. And then they end tonight in Charlotte, and they win 102-97, their first 4-game winning streak since the start of the 2022-2023 season. I know people like tanking, but sometimes winning is just a thing of beauty. Thanks to everyone who tuned in. For my producer, Brenden Slaughter, who's awesome. Don't let anyone tell you any different. I'm going to miss you over the next few days until I see you again in Rip City. Until I see you again, which will be Sunday at 1 o'clock. You guys have a wonderful rest of your evening.